Hi, this is Maggie Richards, and I just wanted to say welcome and wanted to share one more thing with you. In the past video, I shared about the power of love and how my dad had just been really drawn, from mistakes that he'd made, but how God lifted up his countenance and set him free from that bondage through the power of me saying, I love you, and then led to his salvation. So really, really great. But I wanted to share with you another aspect because God says you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and you shall love your neighbors yourself. And the last one had to do with that, loving your neighbors yourself or your family or whoever. But this one is a different testimony, and I wanted to share it. I wanted to get back on because it's powerful. So back in the 2000s or maybe late 90s, I was really frustrated with this person because they lied all the time, and I was really, really bothered about it. I couldn't stand it because I'm just the total opposite, and I'm very truthful. But anyway, the Lord told me, knock it off. Who do you think you are? From, where is that? Job 38 on, where he says, where were you when I created the heavens? Tell me if you know or since you know. And God just spoke audibly to me. Who do you think you are, Maggie? Where were you when I created the heavens? Where were you when I put the gates on the earth, on the waves, and said, this far you shall go and no further? Where were you when I did this? Tell me, Maggie, if you know. And I was on the bed, and I got off the bed and onto the floor and was listening to God speak to me, and the floor wasn't quite low enough. God humbled me, and he rebuked me and said, who do you think you are? And I repented. I said, yes, Lord. Nope, I will not do that. And I kept that promise to him. There were times that I'd slip, but it was never, ever again, just, you know what I'm saying? It was a slip. It wasn't a way of life. And I repented. So about a week later after this, I was reading through the word, and I was reading about you shall love the Lord your God with all your mind, soul, strength, and everything. Had a concordance, and I was just going from Genesis all the way through. And the first several were you shall love the Lord your God. And it was just God's presence was just coming upon me, and I knew how true that was. Yeah, that's the first thing that we need to do. Love him with every fiber, with every breath, with every thought, and it was just like, wow, But with that, as it was getting, I don't know if I can do it. It's too big. With all my thoughts, with all my heart, with every breath, with all my strength, you know? And I knew how true it was, and God was imparting that to me and stuff, but I didn't know if I could. I mean, I love God, and I thought I loved him with all my heart until I was reading this, and then I realized I didn't, not with every fiber of my being. And so as soon as I came to that thinking it was too hard, too difficult, the Lord said, Deuteronomy 30. And so I turned there, and it said, this thing is not too hard for you, nor is it out of reach. It's not in the heavens that you have to go get it and bring it in, that you may hear and observe it, so that you may do it. Nor is it across the ocean that you have to go over there and get it, so that you can, same thing, so that you can hear it and bring it in, observe it, and do it. He said, but the word is very near you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may observe, that you may do it. And I thought, okay, it's in my mouth and in my heart that I may observe it. And it says down there, you guys know, you shall love the Lord your God with all your mind, soul, and strength. I testify against you today that I put before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. So choose life in order that you may live, by loving the Lord your God. And so the Lord said, it's not difficult. It's in your mouth and in your heart that you may observe it. So I got on the bed and I laid down and I started going, I love you, God. I love you, God, with all my heart. I love you, God, with all my strength. I love you, God, with all my mind. I love you, God, with all my soul. I love you. I love you, God, with everything that's within me. I love you, God, with all my heart. I love you, God, with all of my soul. I love you, God, with all of my strength. I love you, God, with all of my mind. And as I was doing that, I could feel God's presence starting to come into the room. And at the same time, Satan spoke. And he goes, you don't mean it. You're lying. And that caught me. It's like, I went, oh my gosh. Because remember, my pet peeve, the thing I hate most in the world is lying. And so Satan took that opportunity to say, it's not true. You don't. You're lying. And that's why it caught me. And I thought, oh my goodness. And then all of a sudden I said, no. God imparted to me the answer. No, I'm not lying. I'm being obedient. Because God told me it's in my mouth and in my heart that I may observe it. So I was speaking what God told me to speak. And so I went back to it. I love you, God, with all my heart. I love you, God, with all my soul. I love you, God, with all my strength. I love you, God, with all my mind. And God's presence was getting stronger. I love you, God. I love you with all my heart. I love you with all my soul. I love you with all my strength. And God's presence was getting stronger. And everything was slowing down. And I just kept saying, I love you, Lord. I love you, God, with all my heart. I love you, God, with all my soul. I love you, God, with all my mind. I love you, God, with all my strength. And I don't know how long it took. But I was in his presence. He filled the room. And not only was I in his presence, but I was in his heart. I knew where I was. I knew I was in his heart. And everything slowed down, my breathing, my speech, my thoughts. Everything became very still. And the Lord spoke to me. And he said, ask me, Maggie, whatever you will. And it wasn't like I could just name off a whole bunch of things because everything had become so still. But I had wanted something for about 15 years, maybe 10, 15 years. And I asked for it. In my heart, I asked for it. And not only that, but God imparted to me at that moment the ability to love him with everything that I was, with every breath, with all my heart, with all my mind, and with all my strength. He gave me that. I couldn't have done it without him. I couldn't have done it on my own. And then I came out of it, but there was an impartation of him, of his presence. And everything was so still and so beautiful. I was in his heart. And 3 days later, I had what I had been praying for and wanting and desiring for those 10 to 15 years. And I was so excited when I got the phone call. Oh, God, you did it. I said, Lord, that's really cool, but can you show me that in the Word? And God took me to John 14 and chapter 15. But if you love me, you'll obey my commandments. And if I abide in you and you abide in me, ask whatever you will, that your joy may be made full. That's the power. That's the good side of loving God with everything that you are. And if you don't, there's no shame in it. He knows. But go to Deuteronomy 30. Lay on your bed. Go to your prayer closet. Whatever you got to do, and just start speaking it. And saying, God, impart that to me. And believe me, he will meet you. He will fulfill that. And that relationship brings that, ask me whatever you will. In the Old Testament, it was a command, you shall love the Lord your God. In the New Testament, it's, if you love me, you will obey my commandments. And as I shared in the other video, that's the importance of us obeying him, of us, that it is so crucial that we obey him. And especially in the world of where we are and what God's bringing us into and what's coming in the world, it is so vitally important that you love him with every breath, with every thought, with all your soul, and with all your mind. It's so vitally important that you get that you receive the impartation of that. And God retaught us and he spanked us. But he spanked us because he loves us. And so I wanted to come on. I didn't want to leave the other video short, but I knew that I had, run the time. And so I wanted to come back on and share this with you. People, you shall love God with all your heart. And when you love him, you won't have your opinion that you hold above his opinion. I always bring up Trump. Like Trump, a lot of Christians, oh my gosh. We have our own opinion. We don't care about God's opinion. Our opinion's the one that matters. Really? You have no clue of what you're saying. You have no idea what you're saying. You're rebelling against the God Most High. You're rebelling in your heart against the God Most High, and he won't tolerate it. You can't have the relationship you want if you're going to hold on to, I'd rather have my opinion. But I encourage you, share this. Take it. Apply it. And really, he'll meet you. And read John chapter 14 and 15. Let it feed on you. But anyway, God bless you guys. I wanted to bring that. I know it's not very long, but I just wanted to share it with you. I love you. And God loves you. He really does. God bless you. Bye-bye.